All right, so thank you guys for showing up today. I'm going to give a little presentation. It shouldn't be too crazy long, but I just want to tell our story here. We have all the stuff out here for you guys to look at, ask questions about. Fenn College was sort of in its birthing years. Starting in 1881, it started off as a YMCA like educational branch. I'm not sure how many people actually know this, but we were part of Youth Men's Christian Association education branch. And then it wasn't until the 20s when we actually started beginning to offer college level courses. Not long after that was the founding of Lambda Tau Delta. And I know that this isn't SigEp quite yet, but it's important to know what we were before we were SigEp. And before we were SigEp, we were considered a local fraternity. So we make some pretty good decisions during these years. And then LTD also grows in manpower as well. It actually wasn't until World War II when LTD eventually closed down, because a lot of the men in the fraternity have to go out or are committed to joining the war effort, and eventually it has to close down temporarily because there's just no one in attendance. By 1946, immediately opened back up with 19 new members. So students started attending Fenn College again on the GI Bill, and this really helped LTD start back up with 19 new members, and then growth would persist after this well into the 60s. And then another important thing that happened in the 1960s was our official changing of Lambda Tau Delta into SigEp. So at this time, a lot of fraternities are starting to associate and kind of be absorbed by larger national fraternities. And Lambda Tau Delta was one of the last ones to do this, but they figured it was time to jump on that train. And so they really look at what fraternity what fraternity kind of aligns with their values and their ideals, and they end up choosing SigEp. The university continued to grow and expand. In the 1960s, SigEp at CSU became pretty much the chapter to beat. We ended up growing to 100 members at one point in the 60s. And every year we start, there's the trophy here. I could talk a little bit about that now. That's the All Sports Trophy. That one's from, I think, 1966. It started this tradition of winning this trophy every single year, and that's kind of established our presence on the fraternity as this fraternity to beat at the time. So Buchanan Cup is awarded to SigEp chapters who have high achievement and are basically the top tier of chapters on their campus. And we became the first to get that in Northeast Ohio. I think Case Western followed shortly afterward. And then we also got a fraternity house on 36th Street. So a 100-year-old mansion. It's in the next slide here. This is an old picture of our fraternity house. Doesn't currently exist, but it was really nice to have. There's the sign that would hang up right here. This sign apparently got stolen or something like that, but this sign right here is actually the sign that was hung up around this area, and there's a picture of it being hung up, so there's a piece of history there. That's in the archives usually. You see here, Cleveland State became a commuter school in the 80s. So by the time the 80s rolled around, participation in Greek life and in campus life started going downhill a little bit. It was seen as less of a priority. Ohio New closed. Despite efforts to try and prevent that, it closed and remained dormant, and the fraternity house got sold and torn down, unfortunately, which always makes me sad because it was such a beautiful house. So by 2010s, CSU wanted to make efforts to kind of grow resident life, grow Greek life. And Dave Hewitt, Bill Schutte, and Parker Keating really were the biggest players in our recolonization in 2013 that eventually led to our rechartering in 2017. So the picture here, this is Parker Keating, Bill Schutte and Dave, and then our rechartering president, Paul All. And he's filling out the request for a recharter in this photograph. And then these are the 40 members that we had during the rechartering period. And then this was the rechartering class. I don't know if you guys recognize any of these people. A lot of them now are AVC volunteers. Like there's Keegan, Paul's up there. There's a couple faces. And yeah, that pretty much brings us up to the present.